Hi, I'm Colleen Hiscock, owner and chef at Java Jack's in Rocky Harbour, Newfoundland and Labrador. And today in our how-to series, I'm going to show you how to stuff some pork tenderloin. We made some stuffing in our last segment, and we're going to use that to put it into our pork tenderloin. So let's get started. And so usually you will buy a pork tenderloin. It'll look like this. And it will often come 2 in a pack. They'll be nice, tightly bound into the package, and then you will unpackage it and you'll see that you have 2 of them. And then you take it out. Now, most people won't realize that there's this connective tissue on the outside. This connective tissue will shrink and your meat will go with it. So our job first is we want to take that off. And I'm going to make, you notice that I have 3 tenderloins here. I'm going to make, and you can see how it actually pulls right off. So you've got this chewy bit. We're not going to worry about that. We're going to take that right off. And again, just slide your knife underneath it and take it off. We don't want that. Okay, now a serving size for most people is half of one of these. If you're a smaller individual, doesn't need a whole lot, well, then half is probably, maybe you could do it in thirds. I'm going to do it in halves. And so essentially I'm going to have, this end here, about half of that is going to be what I'm going to use. Put this to the side. Now, in order to stuff it, I've got to open it up. The technique is called butterflying. I'm going to take it down the center. I'm going to cut it about 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to take I'm going to cut it this way, and then I'm going to cut it that way. And it's just going to continue to open it up, open up the meat, and roll it out. As you can see, it becomes a little bit wider and a little thinner. And I want it to be thin. Don't worry too much about it. So I want it to be nice and thin. As you can see, moving it outwards, creating a much longer piece of meat. All of these little cuts are important, not necessarily to when you eat it, but in terms of exposing the meat muscle. Now the trick is, we're going to add some salt to it. So we're going to add a little salt. Normally you're going to season on the outside. I'm going to season on the inside. And I'm going to rub that salt right in there, just like that. Okay, so most of my muscles should be about the exact same thickness. Okay, I'm going to rub it in here. I'm going to add a little bit of plastic over top here. And I'm going to put a rolling pin here. Essentially, I'm not going to roll it out, but I'm just going to create some mechanical action here. You notice I'm not putting a lot of pressure on it. I don't want to beat it up. What my objective here is to make it sticky and tacky. And what we're doing, the salt helps with that. The salt will actually, what they call, extract the protein. And the protein will be sticky and gooey. Add a little more salt, not too much, because you do not want to over season, and rub it in here. Now we're going to add a little stuffing to that. A couple of tablespoons in here. Voila. That's all we're going to need. Maybe 3. Maybe 3. There we go. 3. We're going to roll it over. And this meat here that's sticky and tacky is going to roll on top of that there. Now we have ourselves a stuffed pork tenderloin. And it is going to stick for you. It's not going to come apart. You don't need to put a toothpick in it. And we're going to sear it off. As you can see, I have all of the pork tenderloin all set, ready to go. They're all stuffed and they're rolled. And I'm going to put them in the fridge and let them set overnight. The meat itself will actually fuse nicely together so that when I go to sear it off on the frying pan, it'll actually not come apart. It'll hold, it'll slice off lovely for the guests. I have 4 of the tenderloins, 4 of the 6 that we had prepared, And what we're going to do now is we're going to cook them. So first we're going to do is we're going to season them up. We're going to turn on the pan here. I've got the pan on high. Make it nice and hot. I'm going to put in about 2 tablespoons of oil in the pan, and we're going to let that get hot so that we can sear the outside. And then we're going to take the whole thing and put it all in the oven. So first we're going to season them up. Now, after they have rested, you can see that they will stick together. So seasoning, salt and pepper, be generous. Remember the whole thing got some salt on the inside. Look at this, right? This is nice and tightly bound. We're going to sear that side. You cannot see anything on the inside, and it's holding together. You don't need a toothpick, none of that stuff. So I'm just waiting for my pan. As soon as I see a little bit of smoking for this particular oil, or I put a little bit of water and it starts to spit, then my pan is ready. So be a moment. So my pan is ready. I'm going to put them in. I'm going to put them the seal side down first. I'm going to have that fuse. And we'll let that sear up. I'm going to turn it down just a smidge. The meat is cold on the pan, so you're getting a lot of spitting, so we'll just keep the heat at a consistent temperature now for the moment. Have a little look before I touch them and move them around. Not quite brown as I'd like to have it, but you can see, you know, it's not going to fall apart on me. Which is really great. That's the idea. So we want to make sure that they're nice and brown on the outside. That's going to give us some extra flavor and color. And it doesn't take long. I like a little bit more. Look at that. And see, it's fused together. Nice and brown. That's going to be lovely and crispy. Okay, so I'm just going to try and sear them on the sides now. Just because I like a little bit more brown on mine. Maybe I'm going to serve it to somebody. And sear the sides up a little bit. That looks great. That looks great. Okay. Now we're ready to put that right into the oven. It's in the oven at 400 degrees. Be about 10 minutes at 400 degrees, and we're going to make them medium rare, so 150 degrees Fahrenheit, somewhere around 60, 65 degrees Celsius. Check the temperature on these. See if they're ready. And I can tell the temperature is rising quite significantly, so we're good to go. Yep, we're done. So it's important that you're going to take that out of the oven, and it's very hot. We're going to let it rest, and most chefs have the concept of letting it to rest. The meat actually doesn't rest. It's an equilibration of temperature. So what we're going to do is we're going to let it sit for a few minutes, let the temperature equilibrate. It's not going to cook more, but it will just temper just slightly and allow us then to slice it off, and then we can eat it. Now is the moment of truth. Let's see how the tenderloins did in terms of holding together and our ability to slice these perfectly. Look at that. Yeah. Juicy still. It's a medium cook. The inside, you can see even some of the juices are coming from there. And we have our wonderful stuffing on the inside. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? So now I'm just going to take it, put it over on a plate. And I have a wonderful veloute that we did in our series. Oh my, look at that. Add a little veloute over the top of it or to the side, and you have yourself the most delicious dinner possible. How about that? Test that out for your dinner. I'm Colleen Hiscock. Till next time, bon appetit.